Hello, my lovely friends. My name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another series reading vlog. This one, we are going to be focusing on a duology, which I'm very excited about. For the month of July, my lovely friends are helping me pick my reads because I'm doing another My Friends Pick My TBR, which is why I have that stack on my fireplace over there. But one of the books is The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in a duology that I've really wanted to reread the first book of and then dive into that next book. So why not document it? We're going to reread The City We Became. Why am I doing this, you may ask? Because my memory is absolute garbage, especially my book retention memory. It's been a long time since I read this book, and I really want to reread it before diving into the sequel because I remember nothing. The previous one of these that I did was for the Poppy War, which is right there, Poppy War. And I'm excited to kind of keep going with my little series video. I initially started this, if you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. I initially started this rereading situation because I did a video earlier this year where I went through all of the series that I have started in my life, at least the majority of them. There are most definitely some that I missed from when I was a kid, but I don't remember them anymore. We got the most important ones from a kid, like from when I was a kid, like The Hunger Games and Divergent and whatever. I went through them all, and if you guys know G from Book Roast, she has a cop-out spreadsheet that she releases every year. And this year when she released it, it had an extra page, which included a series tracker. So I filled that out. I have over 180 series that I have read in my life that I could remember. At this moment, there are 99 ongoing ones because I have a bad habit of starting series and only reading the first book of them. So I have a lot of DNF series because some series obviously just don't work. What I've been trying to do in 2023 is read more sequels. So to do that, I am going to be rereading The City We Became and then diving into the second book, which is The World We Make. Couldn't remember the title of it. And I'm going to be talking about them in this video. It might be a little bit spoilery. I really would wish that I really wish that I could keep these non-spoilery, but my Poppy War one was just me ranting about it the whole time, and I can't keep that spoiler free, so I will warn you, there probably will be a little bit of spoilers in here, but if I remember to, I will put it on the screen when I'm editing, or I will say it out loud as I'm filming clips that we're getting into spoiler things. Usually it'll be on the screen, but yeah, I'm going to try to keep this one a little less spoilery because I know that these aren't super popular books of N.K. Jemisin's. Like, N.K. Jemisin's most popular thing is the 5th season, which is one of the series that I read really early this year. I didn't end up doing a reading vlog for it, but I should have because it's my new favorite trilogy of all time. But yeah, so this is a special reading vlog for this has a fancy name. I don't remember what this specific series name is, but it's The City We Became duology in my head, so let's get started. Hello friends, I wanted to pop in and do an update for The City We Became because I'm officially halfway through my reread. Man, this book is so good. I'm just realizing how crazy my hair looks. That's wild. Please ignore the mess that is my hair. City We Became. I am really thoroughly enjoying this reread. I'm like really enjoying it to the point of like I'm remembering so much as I'm reading it, and there's something unparalleled about N.K. Jemisin's writing. She's so good. Like, the descriptions are so beautiful, especially in this book. I don't know what it is, because it's such a weird, like, cosmic, eldritch life given to city, and I don't know how else to describe it, but like the descriptions when the characters in here are looking at themselves or at the cities around them, it's so beautiful. Like, the descriptions are just out of this world, truly, and I'm thriving. I'm loving this so much upon reread. It's, as I did say though, like, rereading it, I'm remembering a lot of stuff, so I'm wanting it to go a lot faster so that I can get to the one that I don't know anything about, because my memory of this book is coming back in full force, because this is a kind of book that you just don't forget, you know? Like, it is so unique. I love it so much. But yeah, so The City We Became is about the city of New York. The concept is that in this universe, or in our universe, I guess, really big cities and like prolific cities with lots of life end up kind of going through this transformation and becoming like a proper entity kind of situation. And New York City is at its like beginning of this, at the beginning of the book, where it's like there's a lot of like birthing metaphors and like just becoming. And this one person at the beginning of this, I think he's given a name, but this one person who opens this up is the living embodiment of New York City and goes up against what is called the enemy, capital E. New York is having this moment, New York embodied in this guy, is having this moment where Sao Paulo, the city of Sao Paulo, who has already gone through this, and the living embodiment of Sao Paulo is visiting New York to help him through this transformation and essentially, you know, make sure that the city is safe, can go through this transformation. But whenever cities are going through this transformation, it is incredibly vulnerable to other entities in this like parallel universe kind of a thing. And the enemy, capital E, will come and try and destroy cities, which is why a lot of cities in history have fallen or have gone through incredible natural disasters. Like I believe New Orleans in this world was one of them before, but the Hurricane Katrina completely wiped it off the map essentially, right? In here, we have the living embodiment of New York, but at the beginning of this, which is really cool because the beginning, like the prologue of this is a short story that N.K. Jemisin wrote previously. And I read that short story in her short story collection after I had originally read The City We Became. And it was so fun to experience just as a short story because that does really stand on its own. But the concept of it is so cool, and the way that she's expanded it into a full novel is amazing. But yeah, so Sao Paulo at the beginning of this is like, well, there's more of you than just you, isn't there? The city of New York has no idea. And the city of New York is attacked by the enemy and something goes wrong. And so the city of New York is put into like a coma, and all of the other boroughs thus awaken, and they all have to come together to help fight the enemy and that kind of stuff. So we are reading about all the boroughs. We are reading first about Manny, Manhattan, and then we read about Brooklyn, who saves Manny in a moment from the enemy. And there's also Staten Island, who I hate so much. Oh, I hate her so much. Her points of view, which are few and far between, thankfully, are like pulling teeth to read, which is the point. Which is the point. It's just, she's a garbage human being. Then we also have the Bronx, which I absolutely adore, and Queens, who's so cool as well. Like each one of the characters in here are just so unique and really wonderful reflections of the city that they are, like of the part of the city that they are thus being chosen to embody, I guess. When I read it the first time, I fell in love with it because it was just so unique, something I had never ever read before, and I still haven't really read anything like it. I think what's come close is The Ballad of Perry Graves, The Ballad of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings. Is it Alex Jennings? The Ballad of Perry Graves. I don't remember the author's name, and I can't read it from here because my eyes are terrible, but it was interesting because it also dealt with like a living, breathing kind of city, but I still have yet to read anything like this, and it is so neat. It is so neat. The aspect of twining like H.P. Lovecraft eldritch horror with fantasy and sci-fi elements, and also just contemporary elements because it is just the city of New York, is so neat. I really enjoy it. Like there's a lot of things you kind of have to suspend your disbelief over because it is this big moment and this change in the life of New York City that these characters kind of just have to get. Understanding that, and understanding that the Bronx, especially in this, because she is the oldest character and the oldest borough, is, I don't know, it's just because she's the one who gets all the knowledge, she just immediately understands what's going on, and she's the one who's given the information that they need because the city is like, okay, well, you can handle it. So it's a lot of suspending your disbelief, and there's a little bit of Deus Ex Machina in that sense because the city just gives these people like what they need. But it's so interesting because it still doesn't like make the fight easy in any way. Yeah, I don't know. This book is so fun and so delightful to be rereading. But yeah, I'm like gently on the edge of just being like, I just want to be done this. I just want to like consume it all in one really fast go so that I can get to the next one because I just want to see where the story is going from here, which is very interesting because it doesn't usually happen with my rereads. Usually I'm like really content to just sit in the book and reread it and re-experience it, but because I remember so much about it now, I'm just like, okay, I just want to be done so I can get to the next one. But overall, very good. I'm thriving. But yes, I am currently on page 207. I'm at an interruption, so I'm very excited to see where this goes. This is going to be following Sao Paulo, which is nice. I miss Sao Paulo. I forgot that he was in here for a second. But other than that, I'm going to keep going and I'll update you when I'm done. Hello, friends. It is now July 13th, and I am not at home. I'm at my parents' place because I'm looking after Bella this weekend. And I realized as I was walking around, I also just got back from a walk, so I do apologize for the state of me. And I'm just uploading tomorrow's video right now, but I realized that I finished The City We Became and I never talked to you about it. I say that because I am also in the market to start reading the next one. It's the next book that I'm going to be reading for the My Friends Pick My TBR videos, so I figured I should wrap The City We Became up and start that one, which is great. That reread was wonderful. I will say it. I got halfway through, and after I last talked to you guys, I was kind of just not in the mood to continue it. I was like, I remember what happens in this book. I just don't want to be reading it right now. So I took like a week where I should have had finished it. I should have finished it like that day that I talked to you guys, but I took a week and then I finished it a couple days ago, but I was just not in the mood to reread it, but it was still a really great reread. There's nothing like N.K. Jemison's descriptions. Will say that end sequence was great. Rereading it, I was like, oh yeah, shit, there's so much going on. And in typical NK fashion, in The City We Became, there is this like just a trend that I don't know if I mentioned it in this video, but there's a trend where she, anytime is describing what the city is to people or their particular boroughs is to the borough holder, it is unreal. Like, it is a description that I would never be able to come up with ever or ever think of when I'm thinking of like a city or anything. And yet, when she describes the cities in that way, I'm standing there, I'm like, I see it, I get it. It's the most unhinged description, but I get it, I see it. I am there. I am in Queens. I am in the Bronx. Yeah. She's such a good writer. She's so good. And I think she's officially one of my favorite writers of all time, or favorite authors of all time, because I've given multiple of her books 5 stars now. More than 3. So amazing. But yes, that was a very solid reread. Happy I did it. I don't know if I'm excited to get to book 2, because honestly, I've mentioned it in my Friends Pick My TBR video and a couple vlogs outside of that. I'm just not into any of the books on the My Friends Pick My TBR video vlog list. I don't want to be reading them all. I'm also in a weird spot where I honestly don't want to be reading. I kind of just want to be creating stuff, even though I'm also in a hiatus of creation because I'm currently in the 2 weeks where A Little Luck is with betas. So, and I've made myself not do any creative work for a couple days. It didn't really work because last night I was working on Project Favor, which is book 3. So I don't know, I'm in a weird reading mood, but I think because I'm at my parents' this weekend and tonight in about 15 minutes, Critical Role starts. So I'm not necessarily going to start The World We Make tonight, but I do have it with me and I kind of want to see if I can get into it a little bit. So, you know, that's what's up, that's happening. I really enjoyed the majority of the reread for The City We Became because it's an absolutely phenomenal book. It's one of my favorite weird sci-fi books I've ever read. The audiobook is such a ride because like some of the audio effects are just so cool, which is why I knew going in I was going to get the audiobook no matter what for The World We Make, because the audiobook for The City We Became is one of my favorite audiobooks I've ever listened to. That puts her all into it, and the audio effects are so cool. I love when audiobooks have audio effects. I don't know if you guys are the same, but like the only other one that I can really think of right now is Gallant, and that audiobook was so cool because it was every time we got to a journal page, because it's interspersed with the main character's mother's journal, and there's a lot of scratch outs or like physical pen marks. Every time we got to one of those, the narrator or someone in the sound booth or something would draw a pen across the page, and it was different every time, so you knew like it was new pen crossing out sounds, and it was just so enthralling. I love when audiobooks have like little voice things or audio things added in. It's very fun. Anyways, I'm now done The City We Became, and the next book I'm picking up within 24 hours is gonna be The World We Make. So I will let you know how I feel about it when I am halfway through, but yes, on to the finale of this duology. Hello, my lovely friends. It is now a little later. I'm here on the couch with the child and a giant bag of pop chips, because why not? And I'm officially just about halfway through The World We Make. Looks like more, but it's about 50% of the way through the audiobook, so it's going just as well as the first book did when I first read that one. Like, it's just, it's going so good. I don't know how much to say because I don't want to really spoil anything, but it's kind of hard to spoil a lot of stuff for these books because they're just so fucking weird and they're so good. Like, book 1 really introduces us to this parallel alternate universes and this like really interesting fractal tree at the end of it, and like the lore of the parallel universes is really cool. I forgot how much I loved the lore until I read the end of The City We Became, because it has a lot of that, like the realization of all the avatars of the boroughs of New York like coming together and realizing what it is and what like the universe, multi-dimensional war thing that's happening against New York with the enemy. So coming into this book with that lore from the previous book and the fact that they're learning more and becoming more powerful and kind of like really settling into the fact that they are the avatars of New York, I think is so cool. Like it's so neat to have such vibrant, different characters all in here. Man, like I've only been to New York once, and I gotta say, it is one of the most overwhelming places in the world that I have been, which it's one of the most overwhelming places that I have been ever. And as someone who doesn't really like people a whole lot, and being in big crowds and being around a lot of people, New York is not it for me. So, but it was really cool to be there because there's something about New York, right? And having a book that basically explains what that something is so cool. Like the fact that it's a living embodiment, like the city of New York lives and breathes, right? And N.K. Jemisin has taken that and really just honed in on that saying or that belief that we kind of have and blown it up to the fact that, yeah, the city of New York lives and breathes, and it is real, and it's walking around today. I think that's such a cool idea. Anyways, the first book wraps up really nicely, and I think it does work really well as a standalone, but the fact that it has a sequel is also really cool. And I'm interested to see where the next half of this book goes, because I don't know, this issue that's been brought in now, kind of at the end of the last book too, like this issue of something bigger lurking behind the scenes, is my favorite thing when you have any kind of sci-fi or fantasy books that like you think you've dealt with the issue, but then you get to the end of the book and you're like, oh no, there's something a lot bigger going on here. It ups the stakes in the perfect way, and I love it. So it just has like a craft aspect as well. And it's something that I think a lot of book twos in series get really, really wrong, because it misses out on that huge uptick in stakes. Like one of the best books I can describe as like the uptick in stakes would be the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy, The Obelisk Gate. Like the lore that we're introduced to in N.K. Jemisin's first book in that series, the 5th season, is just compounded on and expanded on in book 2, and things that we thought were true were not true and are actually something different, and that is more dangerous and more terrifying, and more things are happening, right? Same with like the second book in John Gwynn's Bloodsworn trilogy, The Shadow of the Gods, Hunger of the Gods takes a lot of what our characters believe in the first book, and due to the events of the first book, have broken them to shreds and actually like shown the reader how much worse it is and how much more dangerous it is. I love when books do that. Like when series do that, that's when a second book hits, you know? But the fact that this is a duology, it's actually been a really long time since I've read a proper duology, now that I think about it. I've read a lot of firsts in duologies. I don't know if I'm trying to think of any other duologies I've read, and there's probably some, but they're just not coming to mind. The only one that's coming to mind is Six of Crows. And so duologies to me aren't necessarily like something that stands out very well. To me, trilogies are where it's at. I love me a good trilogy, but the second book has to hit. That's the thing. Why am I saying this? Because this book, The World We Make, is doing the second book thing that I love. It's doing that. It's taking the lore and it's making it bigger. It's giving us this bigger enemy with the face of the old enemy that we know, with the capital E, enemy. And it's bringing in like personal issues. It's bringing in political issues of the people who are the living embodiments of the boroughs of New York. So like that's already complicated enough that you are the living embodiment of a city. But the fact that you're doing that also while still trying to live your lives is so interesting to me. It's so interesting to me. I don't know. Like it's fabulous. N.K. Jemisin is a freaking master. I think that's really all I could say about this one without like fully spoiling everything that's going on. I think it's really interesting. And there's one character in here who embodies Staten Island, the borough. Yeah, in the first book, I hate her so much. I hate Aislinn. Her name is spelt like Ashlyn, but she goes by Iceland or something, like island, like she's named after Staten Island because her name is Aislinn, but it's Irish, right? So Aislinn is the way you're supposed to say it. Anyways, I hate her so much. And yet NK keeps trying to sneak these little things in that's like trying to make you feel bad for her. And every time it happens, I get this like, oh, poor her. And then I have to stop and think, and I'm like, no, she's literally the worst like, I have to keep reminding myself of all this shit she's done. But it's also interesting because I know it's kind of like a thing and a joke that Staten Island is the borough that New York like ignores. They don't like Staten Island, whatever. And then Jersey City is like not necessarily part of New York. It's not part of New York City, but it's like Jersey City is considered more New York than Staten Island is. And so like that whole thing is at play with the depiction of the Staten Island borough in this. But the fact that NK has made it so racist and so bigoted, and I'm just like, NK, do you have some beef? But then she does this thing where she's trying to be like, but like, look how sad she is, and look how she has no friends. And I'm just like, NK, she's like that because she's an asshole, and she grew up in a really super bigoted family. Like, sure, she probably has like promise if she got out of that situation, but she also isn't willing to try, you know? Or at the point that I'm at, she isn't willing to try, and that's the issue. So I don't know. I find it interesting. I find it very interesting that NK is really giving her against Staten Island. But what I love though, just in general about NK Jemisin, besides the mastery of her craft, the mastery of her descriptions, and the such a cool vibe you get from her books, is the characters. Each one of these characters, Bronca, Brooklyn, Manny, and Nick, and Venetia, and Padmini, like all of them are just so cool and so brilliantly real in their own way. Nick less so, because he's one that we haven't seen a lot of, but I think he's got the potential to be something really, or someone really cool. Nick and Manny, two of them respectively in this book, are very interesting to me because Manny's going through some shit because at the beginning of The City We Became, he lost all of his memories. So he doesn't even remember his old name. He doesn't like actively want to remember either. He completely embodies Manhattan, and he calls himself Manny because of that. Because he's like, I am Manhattan, so call me Manny. And Nick also because he is all of New York. Nick is a very, I don't know, we've only really gotten 2 chapters from his point of view. Both of them are the prologues to both of these books. Oh no, we got the epilogue from the last book as well. It's in his point of view, but he's such a vessel, I think. Like, he's presented almost as a vessel of this unknown, this constant changeability, because New York is always changing. And I think that's so fascinating. I think it's so fascinating. But like, does that make Nick less of a character, less of a real character, a real person, because he's just the embodiment of New York? Doesn't really have any ties, doesn't have any people in his life from before, and he's just kind of there. I'm just like, I don't know, I want to know more about him. And then Manny's interesting because, one, he doesn't remember who he was, and everyone else in the group is like, man, we don't know you. And he's like trying to make those connections, and he doesn't even remember who he is. He does, but he's also not letting himself remember. Like, he remembers he used to be a bad person, and he has the ability to do all these things. And a lot of the other characters are like, Manny's got like a resting serial killer face. Like, he's not a good person from whatever he was in his last life, but he's like using that past to be the bodyguard that New York needs, right? Like, so all these things are just so interesting. I love it. Anyways, I'm also in the middle of doing a 24-hour readathon, so I'm gonna get back to it, and I will let you know my final thoughts when I finish this. But so far, we are killing the game. As always, NK Jemisin is just a freaking master. I am so enthralled by her work and her worlds and the lore and the things that she can think up. Oh, it's just so good. And also, I don't know if I've mentioned it in this video before, but the narrator for these audiobooks is one of my favorite narrators of all time. These audiobooks are some of my favorite audiobooks I have ever listened to. Do yourself a favor and listen to these audiobooks. Love them so much. And they're the kind of audiobooks that, oh God, I almost want to like slow them down, but also speed them up, because I like slow them down so I can savor them, but also speed them up because they're just so enthralling and I just want to keep going, and the story's not moving fast enough for me to keep going, you know? Back to it I go. And just like that, my friends, we are done. The World We Make by NK Jemisin. What a read. What a read. It was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fan-frickin-tastic. NK Jemisin, freaking master. I don't understand so much of the math and science that is in here. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's legit, but it's definitely fun. And I liked the way that it was explained, even though I didn't quite grasp it because I don't have a brain for that kind of stuff. I liked the way it was explained. I like the way that Padmini, the math one in here, really got it around and tried to simplify it enough that the other boroughs understood what was going on. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I will say, no spoilers, I liked the Atlantis bits, I will say. But I do have issues with the ending. So it's not a full 5-star for me. It's probably gonna get like a 4.5 star though. It's so good. My only issue is with the ending. I think it was rushed and clipped, and it could have been so much more cinematic and amazing, which these books deserved. They deserved a really big ending. And we were leading up to it, and I was like, here we fucking go! And then it was just like a slice, and I was like, wait, what? So, not a big fan of how it kind of wrapped up, but I get it in a way. I get like why it was so simplistic, but it was too easy in my opinion, even though they went through hell getting here. It was too easy. I wanted there to be more with the Iceland plot. I wanted there to be more, but I guess like I explained before, it's interesting with what NK's doing with her, because she's set up to be this awful, bigoted, racist human, and she resists change, but then she tries to make us like pity her in different ways, which is very interesting. And I bet you if I had a brain on me right now, because it is currently 10 minutes to 1 a.m. If I had a brain, I could probably figure it out. I haven't had a brain in a long time though, so a brain, i.e. something intelligent to figure things out with. But sometimes N.K. Jemisin does stuff that goes way over my head, and I love it because I don't understand it, and I'm like, I trust you, babe. Like with the fifth season, that whole, like when I first read that first book, I had no idea what's going on. In The City We Became, same thing. Read the first book, I have no idea what's going on. I love when I can read a book like that I can get into and still really be engaged by and entertained by and really fall in love with, even though I have no idea what's going on. Gideon the Ninth is that as well, especially Harrow, because Harrow is so fucking confusing. But those books, the same kind of a thing. I'm so engaged, I'm so entertained. I don't know what's going on, but I know by the end of it, I am going to know. I do feel like I know. I do feel like I understand what was going on enough. I couldn't tell you the math about it, but I definitely could explain to you what was going on in this book without feeling like I don't get anything, you know? I don't understand why NK went with that ending, but I guess that's good enough. I'm so glad that we redeemed ourselves with one of these series videos, because the Poppy War just made me so disappointed. Like, I really enjoyed the reread of the Poppy War and then going into the Dragon Republic, which was so good, but the Burning God just ruined it all for me. Man, I wish also that I had filmed the entirety of my Farseer trilogy reading experience, because that would have been really, really good as well, because that trilogy was fantastic to read. So this was definitely a fantastic duology. I'm now intrigued to read more duologies, specifically in a writer mindset, to see about the crafting of stories in duology form. Because I know trilogy form is a little bit, you can follow the 3-act structure with a trilogy form really, really well because there's 3 books. But the way to do that with a duology is different, and it's so interesting. And I haven't read enough duologies in my life, as you guys know. I just said that. Did I say that in this video? My God, I'm running 3 vlogs right now, and I've talked about this book in 3 different vlogs, so I could have said it in another one. But yeah, I haven't read a lot of duologies, so maybe I need to investigate them a little more and see how the story structure is and the story experience is with a 2 set rather than a 3 set like I'm used to. I think, my friends, that's gonna bring us to the end of this reread and read vlog. I have tackled yet another series on my series list. I am so pleased. I have yet to find a name for this series. The series? Maybe I'll call it that. The series, where I read series all the way through top to bottom. What do you think of that, Belle? Do you like that? She is so sleepy. She says, Jenna, we should have been in bed 4 hours ago. I'm glad this is the first book of that readathon, and it went so freaking good. Oh, I usually do my ratings at the end of this, but since I haven't ran this through Copilot, I usually leave it sit for a day. The City We Became, when I first read it, was 5 stars, and I think I'm gonna keep it at that rating, even though the reread wasn't like the greatest, super happiest experience. Okay, I loved it, but as I said in this video, when I got halfway through, I just wanted to put it down so I could get to this one because I remembered so much of it. So not necessarily my favorite reread that I've ever done, but I think I'm gonna keep it at the 5 star because it's an absolute masterpiece. But this one, because of the ending, doesn't get quite a 5 star. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 4.5. Yeah, we're gonna say it's a 4.5. I still really loved it. And I haven't actually heard a lot of people talking about the Great Cities duology. So if you guys are at all interested in a weird sci-fi that's set in an urban setting of New York City, has such a cool freaking concept, like New York is alive, it's embodied in people, and it has like Lovecraftian eldritch horror at its core with humor tied in. Pick this up. As someone who I've said many times in this video, I don't understand a lot of the science and the math in this, I still had such a great time and I can recognize how amazing this world building is. I would actually be really intrigued to see if someone who knows math and science and quantum theory and all that kind of stuff to read these books and discuss the actual science in that. So I'm gonna go look and see if anyone's actually done that, to see if like people who know that kind of stuff, if it tracks, like if this is like something that would be possible or if the math is completely wrong. And just fictional. I'd love to know. So if you know, let me know down below. This has been an utter delight and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. But yes, incredible series. It is just solidifying that N.K. Jemisin is one of my favorite authors of all time. I have now read 5 N.K. Jemisin books this year, and I'm not gonna stop because I have another one on my shelves that I really want to get to. It's the 100,000 Kingdoms one. If you haven't picked her up yet, please do. I know they can be intimidating. You need some brain cells to read them. They're not light and fluffy, easy reads, but man, are they fun to get through. I'm gonna leave it here. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in another video very soon. Oh, before I go, let me know down below what other series you want to see me read in this series. I guess we're just gonna stick with it. The series. This is part 2. So for part 3, I don't know what I'm gonna get up to, but I do have a lot of different series on my list that I could definitely go with. But if there's a series out there that you want me to read top to bottom that you're interested in my opinion on, let me know and I'd be so down to do it. But now I'll say goodbye. Stay kind and keep on reading.